those, I'm sure, here today. But I think we've addressed them in a good way that will make us better. Having Dak under center is a good place to start to begin with.
I got one more. Micah Parsons, do you expect him, even though he's here, do you expect him to practice until he gets a contract finalized?
Well, everybody here is under contract. Everybody. Yes. And so that's what that is. From the standpoint of, let's say, what happens relative to, I'm looking at the entire NFL when I say this, and that's players that are under contract and teams looking to make it better for the team and for the player. In terms of that, that is incumbent if you're in that price range. When you're up there in that top 10%, so to speak, of the league, and that top quartile of your team, leadership is really big. And leadership exhibits himself when you're negotiating as well. And so I'm appreciative of Micah being here. I am. And it's incumbent upon us all. We've got a player that we've docked him for not being here during off-season workout, as you well know. And we will fine him for that, because those parts of a contract to go directly toward the leadership that he's is as a player relative to the rest of the team, and certainly, obviously, to our fans as well. So I'm big into, and not alone either, big into showing anything you can do for leadership if you're going to be one of these guys that are in the top drawer of all the money.
Clarence.
Hunter Till, All City DLLS. I know it takes two to tango, and every contract is different. But in March, you talked about, Micah, and that you had everything in place as far as an agreement mentally on the numbers. Here we are in July, and you still haven't had a deal. Any frustration of why a deal has not been done?
Not at all. Not at all. We do, and I don't mean this, I have things undone, dangling participles. I bet I have 20 of them every day in some pretty serious areas. You can't have it all done at the same time. It doesn't work that way. And so this is just a part of it. We've got, again, I want to mention that we're here with everybody under contract. 2 years ago, we were here, and I think Zach Martin wasn't here. You had a situation, although we had a contract, so you worked through that. I was looking at this documentary, and it spent some time going back in the Emmitt Smith negotiation and what was going on there. There's nothing new about what we're talking about here today relative to contracts. That's been going on a long time. Now, if you say, well, if you don't get him in, are you going to lose the first two games and then go on to win the Super Bowl? Well, we'll take that. That's what happened with Emmitt, of course.
You brought up Emmitt. You know, from the outside looking in, it seems like this has been a pattern of waiting and not getting guys done.
It wouldn't be hard to, because personally I've been around, Stephen's been around relative to anything to do with a contract or money since 1989. It wouldn't be hard to characterize anything in there as a pattern. Now, if you can make some sense out of that, all that period of time and the ups and downs and the nuances of individual player and a contract and of those times, then that's getting pretty good at it. When you're charting trends, you take those tops and you go and you get your trend from all those tops. But underneath them is all this up and down, up and down. Looks like a recording of a voice, high and low. And so that's just what it is. And you just look at a trend. I've had times when I should have gotten up. I had times when I did get up and I should have sat down, or times when I should have shut up. So all of that comes to bear. Some of them's been real good. Some of them I would do over again. So that is not a That's a wandering way of saying I am not the least concerned about having any dangling participles out here on a contract anywhere.
And the idea that the numbers have gone up as you've taken time, still haven't gotten it done with Watt signing, and certainly after some of the guys signed off season, it doesn't matter that the longer you wait, it seemed like the money has gone up on Michael.
Used to price let's say a Buick for, I can remember when they were $5,000, believe it or not. And today I don't know what they sell for, but that's a lot more than $5,000. I've seen them go dead at $5,000, and I've seen them go dead at $50,000. It's just the times you're in, and it's the money you're in. I'm not trying to be cute, but it's all relevant to me. And again, I don't have any issue. I'm not concerned at all about what our team can be this year and evolve and develop into, and what we make of our training camp. I'm not at all concerned about a contract that involves and will affect that in any way. I can't emphasize that enough.
Todd.
Todd Archer with ESPN. Stephen, in the past, you guys have been able to work deals here, long-term extensions with guys. Are there plans to talk to Micah's agents while you guys are here, and maybe other players as well?
Well, obviously, when you're together here at camp, it makes for a good environment to get some things done before the season starts. At the end of the day, I think, Clarence, you said it best, it does take two. And a lot of times you might be surprised where we might be and where they might have been, where they were wanting to hold. And obviously, I think most players do understand if you're willing to take risk, you're willing to go out on the field and wait a year to do your contract, and you play well and you bet on yourself, then usually that will happen, in a positive way for the player. They understand that. But no, this is a great environment to look at, not just Micah's situation, but all situations in terms of players that are probably going to be up for contract next year, or, be in a year where, they're either, could be franchised or tendered or whatever that may be. So we're always looking for those opportunities, and certainly the players. We have players that are interested in that, and we'll be working on that while we're here at camp.
And Brian, with Micah, if he doesn't practice while he has a hold in, what do you do?
You should work every day. I mean, however this thing plays out, it's going to play out. The fact that Mike is here, he's talked all offseason about wanting to take more of a leadership role. He's talked about wanting to be great. We know he's a great player. And, again, I think that we're excited that he's here. And there's a lot of ways to get this thing done. But like we've said, we're committed to having him take that next step, not just as a player, but as a leader.
Just because we sign him doesn't mean we're going to have him. He was hurt 6 games last year. Seriously. We've signed, I remember signing a player for the highest paid at the position in the league, and he got knocked out 2/3 of the year, Dak Prescott. So there's a lot of things you can think about when you, just as the player does, when you're thinking about committing and guaranteeing money.
On the tango part of it, though, Micah said in the podcast that ownership has overcomplicated this thing. In your mind, do you guys think this has been overcomplicated?
Of all of the people that I've sat down with as a player, of all the players that I've ever negotiated with, Micah Parsons is as savvy and knowledgeable and understanding of his financial business relative to football as any player I've ever been around.
John.
Now, he's smart.
John Machado with The Athletic. Jerry, have you had a chance to actually talk to his agent yet?
I've talked with people that have talked to him. Let's put it like that. I don't necessarily talk to these agents, or I don't necessarily talk to attorneys, and I do stuff everywhere, and I don't necessarily talk to the people that are hired to do certain things. I talk to the principals 90% of the time.
And for Brian, when you're getting ready to come out here as your first training camp as head coach, what's like at the top of your list of what you want to get accomplished over the next 3.5 years?
You know, we were talking about that last night with the staff a little bit. Just, you know, we want to have a very physical training camp. You know, there's limitations to what you can do, but, you know, we want to come out of this thing knowing the emphasis of winning the line of scrimmage. Like, that's really important to us, both offensively and defensively. You know how we want to play, be a physical style team, both offensively and defensively. And so I would say that maximize our padded practices. Obviously got the work coming up against the Rams here in a couple weeks, and that's the big emphasis right now.
Tommy.
Tommy Yarsh, DallasCowboys.com. Jerry kind of brought it up a little bit earlier with Trayvon Diggs. So what went into that decision, and then what do you want to see from him as a leader, like you mentioned, and where do you feel like he is in the recovery process?
Oh, we expect a player paid like Trayvon to be here all the time. We expect him to be leading. We expect him to be leading. But that's not new. That goes all the way back. Dion was not necessarily given to come to the weight room. And I explained to him that it meant a lot for him to be in there. I said, does the fact that I have more weight trainers and more equipment and I work hard every day have anything to do with it? And I said, it needs to have some show with it, and so that all the team and everybody can do it. And he said, you're wrong. Done. I get it.
But
So it's important. It's important to have the right body language in every respect when you are one of those rare, financially paid and gifted players. You've got to have some leadership about you.
But the de-escalation is contractual, spelled out. So he understood when he decided he was going to train in South Florida. He understood what would be what the consequences would be.
Jane.
Jerry, I was just curious, because you know how these headlines can blow up. You said you don't always talk to the principals. In other words, David Mugoletta, Micah Parsons' agent. Why have you not spoken to him more directly the way you have Todd France or David Cantor in the past?
Jerry didn't speak to Todd France.
Okay.
And Jerry, as he said, doesn't speak to many agents. I do.
So what is your relationship with Mugoletta been so far?
We've always had a good relationship with Mugoletta.
What would you say?
And specifically, you know, Adam speaks to the agents as well. So, but Jerry's typically, whether it's a coach or a player, speaks directly to the principal.
And I don't talk to the attorneys and all of the other stuff that goes on, too. Now, it really wouldn't be time for everything if you did that. So I do talk to the principals.
We've talked about the fact that sometimes we drag these out. I know last year you guys have disputed whether there was any rust with CeeDee Lamb when he wasn't here at camp. For those of us who aren't in the rooms or aren't talking to the agent like you are, Stephen, what's holding it up? Is it APY? Is it injury language? What are the little nuances that are preventing a contract getting done? Since you talked to Micah, which is something you guys have done pretty early on with the player, more so than you have in the past.
Well, first of all, we've always felt like it wouldn't, you know, it's not productive to talk about any details about what's holding what up. I mean, obviously, we don't have a deal with Mike, and we have work to do. That's the only thing I would comment on.
The other thing I would say is contracts are 4 or 5 years. Okay? There's a lot of water under the bridge if you step out there and do something in the first 2 or 3. You can get hit by a car, seriously. And so there's a lot to look at over a lot of years that could make a big difference. Have you ever heard of any clubs committing to players and then they didn't pan out after they committed to them? We have. And so my point is there's of all the reasons in the world to, when you're under contract, and if you're not under contract, one of the things that exacerbates this is that you have a kind of a policy or a practice to have contracts but have like it's some kind of obligation to do something before the contract is over. Okay? In other words, not have the benefit of the contract. Well, that goes completely against the benefit of the club, which ultimately should be to put a winning team on the field. And the more that you can husband, the more that you can spread it out and put it around and have other good players rather than all going to a few players, the better team you got. So there's a lot of reasons. Timing is a lot of reasons. And in fact, why would you go out and basically spend money just to spend money and not have had to spend it, but you can spend it 3 years later? Money costs money. There's a lot of reasons why. This old business of thinking, well, my goodness, it's pretty obvious to me everything goes up. So why don't you catch it when it's low? Have you ever thought that when it's low, they're counting on it going up? And those are the numbers that are coming out? Not the ones that are going on right there. Have you ever thought about that? That's it, 90% of the time. They are not dealing with you in those numbers today. They're dealing with projected numbers, which also usually have more fluff than reality. They've usually got an not imagination, but an expectation that those numbers are going to be higher than they are. And there's a debate. Okay, what if we're sitting here putting the club together and we're trying to get them and we don't believe they're going that high? Only God really knows, you know. So all of that comes to play.
Joe.
Joseph Boyd, Dallas Morning News. Jerry, kind of just talked about, you know, the things that can happen before a contract's up, and that's why you kind of wait for it a little bit. You've done deals, though, early with Trayvon Diggs, with Terrence Steele before it was time for it. What's the difference between those situations and a situation like CeeDee Lamb and Micah Parsons?
Frankly, should we have waited on Diggs and Steele? Oh, you brought them up. I didn't.
Well, the other thing is the willingness. I mean, you have players who are, you know, who decide, hey, I'm willing to wait. And I'm going to wait on bigger numbers. And then you got other players who want to be more conservative and say, hey, I'd like to have my money now. And that's every person's different. Every player's different. And you respect both sides. And like I said, we'll talk to 4 or 5 other guys other than Micah who are going to be up next year. Some will say, hey, I want to wait and play and think my numbers will go up. I'll play better. I'll do better. You know, the numbers will be up from last year. And we certainly respect that. And then you have some players who say, hey, I'm ready to take care of my family and decide to go now. And they've been varying for 30 years. Who wants to go ahead and do it early and who wants to wait?
On that note, would you like to open conversations with Tyler Smith and his representation?
What makes you think we had?
Have you?
Like I said, you always hate to comment on this. Their private and personal business, and it's not for me to talk about. If they want to talk about whether we're having talks with them, then that would be up to the player. I don't think it's productive for me to share, you know, who are the guys we're talking with and who's decided, hey, I'm going to wait. I'd rather do this after the season than now or back last spring. You know, we have to respect that.
Patrick.
Good morning, gentlemen. Football question for Shotty. When you're talking about starting training camp with several of your cornerbacks going on injured lists, Trayvon Diggs, Revel, Josh Butler, Kalen Carson is working his way back. Just talk about the challenge of trying to build continuity in the secondary when you have so many unsettled pieces at cornerback.
Well, I see it as a positive. I mean, I can see where there's issues, but it gives you a chance to look at some of the younger players. I think, you know, our objective to come out of these first 2 weeks, really, before we get into the joint practice against the Rams, is we want to see all these guys compete. We want to see who's developing, who took the things that we taught in the spring and who carried it over. The installation is going to be exactly the same. So OTA 1 is going to be training camp 1 tomorrow, and then day 2 and day 3. But so I think it's really not, you know, you could look at it as, oh, it's a negative for continuity. We'll get that figured out. But at the most part, we need to figure out and make the right evaluation of these guys to make sure that when it comes time to trim in the roster, that we're keeping the guys that we feel like fit our football team, not just based as a player, but as a person.
Nick.
Nick Harris, 4-Star Telegram. When you guys were looking at last season, obviously not the campaign you guys wanted, what were the big problems that you took away in your reevaluation, and do you think you've solved those problems going into training camp now?
Well, I'll speak to the first couple things. Obviously, when you look at the turnover issues last year, that was a problem for us. We have to be better there. Injuries are part of the game. We know that. But again, I just think at the end of the day, the consistency for us last year was not very good. And that's why I feel like the importance of this training camp. I think there's no better training camp spot in the world than here in Oxnard, Ventura County. And the weather, the work we're able to get done, just, in terms of just focus solely on football. That's why you come out here. That's what you love about it. And again, it's more about what we need to do moving forward. We came out of the spring saying, okay, these were some of the areas that we got better at. We felt like we got the system in place with Flus coming in, with Sorensen coming in, and now's a chance for the coaches to really perfect it. That's what you try to do. You look at you teach it in the starting point of phase 1, phase 2, you detail it in OTAs, and then your job is to perfect it as a coach and a player during training camp.
You guys need more out of Mozzie Smith and Tyler Guyton this next coming year. What's your confidence in each of those guys right now?
Mozzie looks great. Saw him last night. He looks great. He's excited. He's ready to go. He looks awesome. Again, young player. And then Tyler Guyton, I saw the thing of him training in the rain, doing some boxing. But again, he's worked his ass off. And again, why is training camp different? Because these guys actually get to hit each other. They get to lean on one another. And then when you play the game in the trenches, that's what matters. It's not what you do in OTAs. I thought we had really good OTA practices, but there's limitations. The key of training camp is you're able to do things that as close to simulates what you're going to do on game day.
Joe.
Shotty, Dak Prescott entered year 10. We know about what he's gone through in terms of injuries. What's your philosophy in terms of the work you need to see out of him and how much work you will give him?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, now that he's in the over 30 club, we're going to be smart with some of the things that we do with him. He is anti that. He wants to do as much as possible. Luckily, we have the trump card with him on that. But in all seriousness, Dak understands that, again, there's a smart way to train. We've got, two other quarterbacks we're really excited to evaluate. Joe Milton's a guy that we're really excited about. We want to see him play a bunch. And then, Will Greer's a guy that's been around. So although Dak's not going to like it as much, he's very aware that we're going to be intelligent with what he does.
And then one more I got for you. In terms of your message to the team in the first meeting, what are some of the highlights of that? Do you have any kind of a camp motto for these guys this year?
No, the motto is going to always be compete every day. That's what we're all about. It's not going to change. I've been other places where there's a theme of the year. I don't believe in that. I believe in that you should have a central theme of your program, and that's compete every day. And again, that's not just on the practice field. That's in the meeting rooms. It's time away, being smart, things like that. And again, the guys that I've seen and been around, they're excited, and they're excited to build off what we did in the spring. The spring was terrific for us, but it was just a spring. Now you're getting into July and August and the real dog days of summer, and that's where you're going to see the massive growth in this football team.
Tim.
Yeah, Tim Kalishaw, Dallas Morning News. Jerry, I wanted to say, first of all, and I'm late on this, you were great in Landman, and that to some extent made me look differently at you, things you do. Seriously. Now, having said that, you brought up charts, and Washington did go to the NFC Championship game. So this is the first time you've come to camp as the team that's been the longest in the NFC without a championship game. And you see that chart in 29 years. Is that embarrassing? What do you think when you see that and think about that?
I've spent a lot of those 29 years looking up, not looking back. I really have. And this thing has had some great peaks since 1989. But like football, they're few and far between. And so, yes, there have been some rough bumps along the way and some disappointments. Last year was one of them. I have always, though, known that you can't live off of last year or the year before. You've got to go do something and make some changes. Something's got to happen differently. If I sat around and dwelled on the past, and especially the negatives of the past, then I couldn't even get out the front door. And so I don't think about it. I do not think about it. I work on, in my case, I work on what I can do different in that mirror. how I can change some things that I think will help things. I don't apologize at all for the fact that I've got the passion to be in the spot I'm in, or I have the background, or I have the qualifications. I don't apologize about that at all to my mirror. What I say to that mirror is change this, act better there, do a better job there. Now, we didn't do well at quarterback last year because Dak got hurt, in my mind, just to show you how simple this is for me. And we didn't block them up very good, either pass protect or open the holes up there. I think we're going to do better. Do I know better if we don't have Dak? No. But if we got Dak, one thing that I'm so optimistic about is the guy sitting right over there. Because the minute the season was over, we wanted him to have the most influence on the offense and the most influence of getting the best out of Dak. He knows the personnel. And he knew obviously, where we could have done better and what circumstances we could have done better on. When I first was thinking about him, and with Steven and with everybody involved, I really didn't think about him being the head coach. I did think about him really being involved in helping us be a better offensive football team if, in fact, we were able to have some better combinations of things, personnel or what have you. So it's not hard for me, after not going to a playoff game or not going to an NFC championship game or not going to a Super Bowl, it's real hard for me to feel the pain you feel last year and feel the elation and the hope to this year at all. This is going to be exciting to see what a man that's spent 30 years, grew up in this game, never had a chance to head coach, and has got some of the finest, highest paid athletes in the world to step out here and go to war with. I'm excited about that, and I'm proud that he's getting this opportunity. He deserves it, in my mind. It became very clear to me that he would deserve it. What I'm trying to say, Tim, man, that makes me go here this year. That makes me feel good. I had no problem at all in the spring being excited about coming to training camp and thinking about it all. Do you think I really dwelled? How much do you think I dwelled on Emmett going in and being the most valuable player over in the Super Bowl when he was? How much do you think I dwelled on that, or not the Super Bowl, but the player that he was and when we played at Atlanta? How much time did I'm thinking about that because I just watched an episode on that, going back that far. But I'm not doing that to get over there and live in the past. If anything, everybody in this room should know that I've got to live more in today than I've ever had to, because that old time's running out. And that's just a fact. That's just what it is. So I'm living for now. You ask me how I rationalize it, that's exactly how I rationalize it. I know how lucky I am. I've looked forward to sitting here with you guys. You think, well, we've done this 15, 20 times in our lives. I'm going to tell you something. You could too. We could be anywhere we want to be, but our ass is sitting right here because we want to be. Because we want to be and be a part of it. Now, that's enough for me. And I have paid the price, personally. I don't have any problem justifying when somebody says, well, do it differently. Why don't you just watch it on TV? I don't have to. I paid too high a price in my mind for doing what I'm doing. And I'm ready to do it again. And I'm ready to walk up there and get that trophy if we could possibly get it. So that's a long-winded way of saying it doesn't daunt me at all to sit here. Face music. This isn't music. I'm glad to be here. And I know you know that I don't cut my throat every time somebody writes something bad about me. I know you know that. And so that's not an issue either. So I'm glad to see everybody. I'm glad to be everywhere. I'm excited about out here and what this camp could mean by and through what we've done. Have we done some things with our players and our personnel that could really give us a chance to shock the hell out of them and be better than most people think we're going to be this year? Absolutely we have, and it could happen. And that Dak go out here and light it up, and a lot of good things could happen with us, okay? That's exactly the rationale I used really last year when I made him the highest paid player in the NFL. And you don't think I didn't think about him getting hurt and not having him after doing that? That would be criminal had I not thought it out. Well, it happened. It happens. That kind of stuff happens. And get ready, you're going to get some knots when those kinds of things happen. We got a great chance to put together a team here this year that could be where we would like for it to be. I'm excited about that.
That was basically Landman 2, so I appreciate it.
What?
Yeah, it was good.
Well, they didn't give me enough time on it. My best scene was when I was talking to, what's his name, laying up there in the bed. I said, the good news is that they say you're going to live. And so don't make me have to come up here and visit with my rubber glove and get you out of that bed. Now, they took that out, and I thought it was the best scene in the whole thing.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Tim Collishaw with the question of the day. We might need to pause and recover a bit from the compliment that you
Thank you,
offered.
Tim.
So
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah. Yeah. Pat?
I've got to follow that. Thanks, Tim. Pat Doney, NBC BFW. Brian,
Speak up, yeah.
you've talked about wanting to have the best culture in all of pro sports, is what you said. The players were really excited about the energy in practice in the offseason. How do you maintain that through the dog days of training camp when we're here? And what do you think practices in the 5 here will feel like compared to what they've been like the last few years when you've been on the staff?
I think the biggest thing for me, number one, I really do believe that practice is what's going to separate us from the rest of the league. The way we practice, like that's how important we believe that it is, and it's the energy and the way we start it from not just stretch with the music, but going through the bags and everything's being evaluated, everything's being graded. There's going to be a winner and a loser in every period that we have, and that kind of makes it fun. But it's the type of guys that we have. I'm an upbeat, positive person. That's my personality. I think I'll speak to what Jerry said. I feel blessed to be sitting in this chair. I'm excited about the guys that I get a chance to work with, both the players and the coaches. I think you look at the staff, having had a chance to work with the staff all spring, it's a dynamic staff. I think these guys know how to teach. They know how to demand. They get the best out of their players, but they've also learned to connect with their players on a higher level so you can have those real hard conversations and push them to the limits. When the days get hard and the practices get tough, that's where we need to excel. And I think we'll do that because of the culture and the connection, not just that we've set, but that the players have adopted, and they're excited about it.
Anything quirky like the basketball stuff, or that you're planning on to try and keep competitiveness going through the meetings, or anything that you're willing to share with us?
Yeah, always. I'm not going to share it with you guys because the players don't know what it is yet, but there'll be multiple sporting competitions that we'll be doing.
Mike?
Michael Coleman, KLTV, East Texas. You talked about your policy regarding Dak being over 30. On a younger player, the Marvion Overshown, his injury situation, what will your policy be regarding him?
Yeah, each player is different. Obviously we trust the training department. I think Jim and Britt do a terrific job with our doctors. But, again, there's a lot that can be learned from a knowledge standpoint by watching, by teaching. What I like to do with the guys that are out is actually let them coach some of the younger players. So like a guy like Demo, he can take, some of the younger linebackers that we have, Shamar James, and spend time teaching them things and coaching them while they're watching. So we don't see it as missed opportunities. Of course, you're not going through the physical aspect of it, but there's a lot that can be learned and taught when you actually teach something instead of just doing it. Sometimes players that are these elite athletes, you ask them to do something, they're like, oh, okay, that's easy for them. But when they have to explain how to do it to someone else, they really learn the insight that goes along with it.
Deuce.
Mike Ducey, Fox 4. Hey, Jerry, I think you answered this in Tim's question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. When you talk about changes and the willingness to make wholesale changes, has stepping away as GM even ever crossed your mind momentarily as a possibility through all these years?
And again, repeat that. I think I know what you said, but repeat it.
Has stepping away as general manager ever been even a momentary consideration for you through the years?
Yes. Momentary.
How long a moment?
Now, we're getting down to it. Small fractions of seconds, I promise you that.
Why did you talk yourself off that ledge?
Well, I didn't have any trouble talking it off because those were obviously painful moments when I would be thinking like that. And I just, That's not why I'm here. That's not what from my part, that's not what it's been about. And from that standpoint, and plus, what is such a misnomer, and I really want to emphasize this. Probably unlike most general managers. For instance, Mike, he's not here, so I talked about him when he was here and talked about him nicely and everything else. But Mike hadn't spent much time in the draft room when he was at Green Bay. That's not how I've operated as general manager of the Cowboys. I have Shoddy, I have Steven right at this particular time. Hell, Tad might even be in there. But my point is, there is such a inclusion and discussions. And as you know, you see it, I'm in Senior Bowls, combines, all of that. All of that melds into a real good feeling about where we are, so that I'm not sitting up there throwing darts about a player, or I'm not sitting here logically addressing financially about whether to extend the contract going forward. But I have huge incentive to do it right. And so I ask these guys to the no end constantly, whether we're drafting a player, whether we're getting one in free agency. I mean, I'm covering it with them and going over detail about why not all the time. I don't know that I would put my inclusiveness of input with anybody in sport relative to the general manager duties. Being where I am, I have a good feel for risk and the tolerance for the risk, and so that's an advantage for me being there rather than somebody else there. There is no question that in sports, a general manager, if he is the one that can spend the money, and I emphasize that, but those guys can have bad runs of it, and then somebody else is there to take care of it when it's gone. There's not been any of that in 35 years here. There's not somebody else to have to take it on because it's a mess or something like that. That is a good governor of helping you make decisions. So I like it this way, but candidly, and if you watch this Netflix, you'll see, I gave every friggin' thing in my life and then exposed probably 2 or 3 times that to get to sit up here. And I did that when a lot of things weren't going right financially for a lot of things, sports, NFL, a lot of things. And I danced with that devil, and I've danced with it a few other times along the way. So if you think a little bit of what you write is going to deter me from sitting up here doing what I want to do, you're wrong. It's just not going to do it, because I've danced with the devil, the financial devil, and lived to tell about it. And so that resolve is there with me as well.
Coach, just real quick, you've obviously had this job for a while now, but to be sitting here today, just personally, what does it mean to you to be on the eve of your first training camp as a head coach?
Oh, I'm just thrilled, man. I think why? The people I get to do this with day in and day out, Steven and Jerry, the entire, Jones family, you take these couple weeks off, right, and everybody kind of goes all over the map, and then, you're about a week or two away, you start realizing, like, man, I really miss the guys. I miss CD. I miss seeing Sanborn. I miss seeing those guys. And then you start shooting them texts, and then you kind of you work yourself into a frenzy. The excitement and the man, I can't wait to get started. So. Again, just thrilled to get started. It's going to be an awesome camp. We feel great about where we're at. And truly seeing these guys makes me feel like the luckiest man in the world that I get to lead those young men.
KJ Doyle, KRGB. Coach Schottenheimer, you heard just a few minutes ago, Jerry talked about how he feels like you've earned this opportunity. And what does the support that you have from him kind of mean to you? And how are the emotions kind of different heading into your first training camp as a head coach rather than an assistant on the staff?
That's a good question. Number one, the support from both these guys has been amazing. We've had some incredible conversations going back through the interview process and then through free agency and the draft. And I will piggyback off what Jerry said. I mean, the give and take is outstanding. How does this player fit? What's the role? Those conversations happen 24/7, and that's been awesome. And just in terms of this opportunity, do I think I deserve it? Absolutely. Do I think I'm ready? There's no question. And it can't get here soon enough. I guess it's here, but to get in front of the players and get started a little bit later today is going to be great.
I look real closely at, in Shotty's case, but I look real closely at the incentive to do everything he possibly can do to help our Cowboy fans, help us have a success. And he's got so much riding on him. He's got that dad in the sky. He's got his mom. He's got family. But more important, he's got a lifetime of work. So when I go into anything, I want to know what they've got at risk or what they've got at stake. When Johnson and I got together, okay, I knew exactly what I had at stake, okay? When he came, we were probably 6 months before we ever did a contract on his salary. And he brought staff with him. Because my point was that was an incentive for us to do everything we could. And we did reach out stuff. And by the way, unbelievable, this guy was sitting right there. And then, look, Jimmy told me one day, he said, you're a pain in the ass. But he said, I could work with Steven for 20 years. And so the other thing I've got to remind everybody here is that from day one, this guy's been sitting there and other family members that I have just like him. We have evolved to this particular point. So it's not just me, but it is we. And the other thing is that at the end of the day, I believe it is the best way to win a Super Bowl. I believe that.
Jonah.
Jonah, Javad, WFAA. Quick two-parter. I guess I'll start with Jerry because Tim brought up Landman. Were you upset that you didn't get nominated for a guest appearance for an Emmy?
I didn't know they'd had to vote. I'm teasing. I am teasing. No, not at all. Well, no. Let's be real clear about that right there, because I have no idea what qualifies you in that particular area. But I will say this, that it was a great pleasure to work with those guys that were there. And one of them, Billy Bob, he was raised about 30 miles from where I grew up in Arkansas. And his dad was a great coach, one of the greatest legendary baseball coaches ever. And he thought he was going to be a great baseball player. So you can imagine what our days were like. I spent about 6-7 hours doing that, believe it or not. And what we talked about baseball, and it was so funny. He said, I saw that wasn't going to work on the baseball thing, and I'd spent some time in the California leagues playing, and he said, I had another good guy that was a top director. And he said, you're too ugly, Billy Bob, to be a major actor. But he said, you could make one heck of a character actor. And he said, that's what you ought to be. And that's how he ended up going that way. But really good experience. And no, to be very candid with you, I didn't keep up with it and don't even know where those nominations are or what have you. I'm sure you'd have seen it if something like that had happened.
And totally unrelated, Shotty, just your level of communication with Micah Parsons over the last 24 hours. I know you guys were trading calls or texts going back to minicamp and OTAs, but over the last maybe 24, 36 hours, what's that been like?
No, it hasn't changed. I mean, he and I have been in communication just like I have with most of the guys, and I knew where he was this weekend and he was coming in. And again, this time of year is a dead period, so you can't talk football, which we don't. You know, you guys know me. I'm a big connection guy. I'm a big culture guy. So it's more just checking in, telling guys I miss them. What are you up to? What do you need? Let me know if you need anything. And it's been no different. I'm not surprised he's here. I know what he's all about. I know he's about winning. I know he's about being great. And I would say my communication with him is no different than it was in the beginning.
Is there any level of frustration? Because you guys have preached kind of leadership, and some of the guys have preached wanting to be leaders, but not being present or not being on the field for certain things. Is it frustrating at all when some of your star players are not fully committed, so to speak, on certain aspects of what you're trying to build?
Well, leadership's definitely commitment. I wouldn't say that I wouldn't look at our locker room and say there's anybody that's not committed to being a leader. I think part of leadership that makes it so hard is you can try to lead and guys don't want to follow. And so I think that's where the work ethic and being out there and doing the stuff, and there's a lot of different ways to lead. But I look at that locker room. There's a lot of guys that have leadership capabilities that get me excited and get me looking forward to letting them speak. I'm not the only one that speaks out there after practice. I let those guys speak. This is their team. They're the ones that step in between the white lines and have to go out in there to battle. And I think we've got a dynamic group of young men that are really ready to take that next step of leadership.
You've got a huge, you got a dynamic going on. You've got 10%, 12% of your people making 2/3 of the money. And so it's incumbent upon that group right there to walk and lead. Walk and lead. And it covers a lot of ground, what that is, to make that work. And this is all a part of it to make it happen. But that's not that's nothing new. I've talked to people all over the league, and that's what you've got. You've certainly got players that are going to make more money than other players make, and but they've got to wear it.
Calvin.
Any frustration, because you talked about leadership and that kind of thing, and it's in its contract, but any frustration that, hey, we had to take money away from Diggs because he's not showing up working out at the facility the way you want him to?
No, he didn't earn it. He didn't come. That's in his contract that he doesn't get that unless he's going to be here. And think about it a minute. Do you have to go to work and show up, all that kind of stuff? Of course you do. We all do. And bottom line is that those are contractual things, as Stephen said, and it would be very detrimental to the team not to abide by the agreement.
Gordon Keith of the Ticket in Dallas. Since my esteemed colleague from the state of Texas, Tim Kalashaw, derailed us into landman talk, I'm going to continue that derailment and ask about your Hollywood career. Are you aware that there's a cartoon in which you appear as a character, and were you approached to do a voice for a cartoon?
Now, repeat the last part. I really didn't hear it, but
There is a cartoon in which you are a character that's going to be on the Cartoon Network. Were you ever approached as becoming a voice actor for that cartoon?
we're getting drowned out. But I'm gonna make sure this goes by. But listen, it's not new to me to show up in some caricature. It really isn't, and they've used a few in the whole thing there. So I'm not sure that I understand. Was it risque or what was it?
It's not really risque on your part, no.
No.
That's good. That's good.
No. No. And I can
There've
tell
been
you,
those too, buddy.
Yeah, and I can tell you he wasn't approached. Probably right, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen it.
And are you aware of the fake Jerry that's on the ticket? Just as a curiosity.
I'm very aware. Yes, sir, I sure am. And for years, did some of the best laughing, especially when I think they did things in there about Jerry Jr. And we used to really fall out over that. And Gene owned me hard and fast for not having Jerry more involved. So get all that kind of stuff. Listen. I haven't worked in 35 years, okay? I've had the damnedest run and the most fun that you could ever imagine. And I've really got to do it. This isn't Kalashaw talking here or not talking, but I've got to do it with this big boy. That wasn't a big boy necessarily when we started, but a big boy, and I've got to do it with his sister and other sister and our family. And I don't have any trouble on getting a little heat. Promise you that. That's petty stuff. It's been too good.
Brad.
Brad Sham, Cowboys Radio, 105.3 The Fan. I'm not sure it's even appropriate to ask a football question anymore, but Ryan, you mentioned...
It's all football, Brad. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. It always has been. We just introduced it more like that when we got here.
Tell that to the people watching the Cartoon Network. But, Brian, you mentioned Sanborn. Short list of new veterans who you are expecting to be significant, who maybe people are not talking about?
Good question. Love Jack and what he brought to the team this spring. Kyer Elam's a guy I'm really excited about. I mean, Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Peyton Tarmin, the list goes on and on. I think you look at what we were able to do, not only signing our free agents that we wanted back, but adding some of the depth pieces that we wanted to do. And those are some names that pop off the list. But we've made a very competitive roster. And that's why, again, the importance of practice and the evaluation. And when we go through the drills, making sure we're getting guys paired up with the right guys for matchups and things like that, that's all part of the process. And, Tyler Guyton going against Micah Parsons is great for Tyler Guyton. And something that we were doing last year before Tyler got dinged up a little bit. But couldn't be more excited about the roster of players and young men that we've accumulated.
Patrick.
I want to thank Brad for this alley-oop position question for Coach. Shotty, you'd have to go back. I mean, you can go back 14, 15 years or so, and it's a rare occurrence in which the Cowboys don't even have an indication of who their lead running back might be. You guys added 4 new guys, 2 rookies, 2 veterans. You mentioned Javonte. You mentioned Miles. Through OTAs and minicamp, has either of those running backs kind of started to take the lead as front runner, or are all of those guys going to get fair shot at first teamers?
Yeah, I think they'll all get fair shot. The problem with OTAs for a running back is the game is meant to be played very physically. So the way you run through the hole is different when you're wearing pads or you're in a 9-on-7 period than it is when you're running around in shorts and T-shirts and OTAs. They'll all get reps, but I will say again, of the 2 veteran guys, they're very different. Javonte looks great. Miles looks great. We're excited about Jaden. Hunter Lepke, I always talk about him just with his versatility and what he can do. And, of course, there's, Deuce. But that's one of the matchups and one of the position rooms that we're very excited to watch and see where it develops, not only through practice but in through the preseason games.
Clarence.
One question for Stephen. Have you talked to Mulugeta at all, or was it just Adam?
Just Adam, up to now.
And obviously, Shada, we know about Jerry and Stephen's angst to win, 30-year drought and all. But Dak talked about your hunger and how you want to win for your dad and your family, and this is what you've been born to do. Can you speak to your hunger to win and win a Super Bowl for your family and for yourself?
Yeah, one thing I would say, Clarence, is the hunger I have now is for the young men in that locker room. It's for the Joneses. When we win a Super Bowl, my dad will get a ring. I can promise you that. But look, this is something where I grew up with a father that there was one goal, and he was very open talking about Super Bowls and winning a World's Championship, and he never did it. It doesn't change his legacy and how good of a coach he was and the type of impact he had on people's lives. But, these guys over here, they have Super Bowls. They've won rings. I don't have one, and I want one in the worst way, and I'm willing to work my ass off and lead this group of guys whatever way it takes to help them achieve that. But it's really not just for me. If anything, it's more for them.
Nick, last one. Nick.
A quick question. Did you guys have a chance to speak with Cavante Turbin since his arrest, and how do you guys plan on going about discipline?
Spoke to Terp, talked through it with him. He explained a lot of things. He understands that there's a standard, the way that we conduct ourselves, and he knows that he needs to be better, but we won't get into all the specifics.